current events. And one day we got to talking about something that I want to know, fact or fiction. And this is dealing with Social Security. I was told that if an individual that was on Social Security passed away, and whatever money was left in their account did not stay in Social Security, and it went into the general fund of the government. Is that correct or incorrect?
I'll research that for you, but I believe that's incorrect. I will check that out, make sure you give your name and phone number to AJ there, and we'll go ahead and make sure of that. But I'm pretty sure that's not correct. But we'll check it out. That's a good question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And 691443, is that out there?
Right over here.
Right.
Hi, Congressman Kurt. My question stems from a conversation I had with my dad, and we were talking about whether or not healthcare or housing would be the biggest issue in the 2010 election cycle, not just in this race, but across the nation. And my viewpoint is that housing is underrated, under-talked about, in terms of affecting millions of people. And my question, rooted in policy, is what your opinion is on Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's proposed bill, the Homes for All Act. And have you read the bill, and what do you think about what you've heard about it, if you haven't read the bill?
Well, I haven't read the bill, and to be honest with you, don't know much about it, but you bring it up, I will do that. And I think you're correct. Housing is one of the most underrated issues, perhaps under talked about, although I will say, I hear back home all the time about homelessness. Our veterans community is unfortunately a big part of that homelessness, and that's unacceptable. We've tried to work with colleagues in the United States Congress. It is, believe it or not, a divisive issue. Republicans are not excited about the housing urban development budget, so it makes it a little difficult. But in the budget before this, we're able to get increase in HUD vouchers for housing. We're able to do more in rental assistance at the federal level, trying to partner with our county and municipalities that deal with that issue on the front line. We've tried to rehabilitate a lot of the Section 8 housing. As you know, prior to the recession, a lot of Section 8 housing was taken out, and everyone's building a condo, for the uppies that are moving into town, and that was a real hurt for a lot of low-income folks that no longer had access to any housing at all. So we're starting to look at that again. It is, believe it or not, a divisive political issue. It doesn't seem to be that way in my state. And I talked to other members of Congress, and they seem to agree that this is one of the top issues of the next cycle, and frankly the next several years, until housing supply starts to catch back up from the recession. So we're going to put more attention on it. I will check her bill out.
Specifically, it raises the federal budget and allows the federal housing to create new public housing, and that could tie into climate change and Green New Deal and faux Green New Deal, or...
He says that the housing, the bill puts more money into housing opportunities and could play into a lot of other issues out there at the same time. And I would agree with you. When I was in the state legislation, I see it now in Congress. We give money for drug addiction and mental health treatment, for seniors, trying to make sure they have opportunities for prescription drugs, etc. But unless you have a house, unless you have some stability in your life, you're going to have trouble. So the housing issue plays into a lot of different things that we try and deal with all the time.
Okay, ticket 691374. 691374. Okay, and then I'm going to, on deck, I want to prepare the next 254824.
Hi, Kurt.
Hey, Joey.
My name is Joey Nations. Kurt and I know each other. So one big thing I would like to ask is something I've asked before, actually. So with illegal immigration in particular, Kurt, you voted no on Kate's law. You voted no on the No Sanctuary for Criminals Act. You've talked about the value of illegal aliens. You've talked about essentially putting them over American citizens in every opportunity that you get. And so given the opportunity to represent American citizens, I ask you, how can we trust you to represent us when you so publicly when you so publicly and obviously put illegal aliens before American citizens. So how can we get the trust factor there, Kurt?
Well, I'm not sure I'd agree with what you said. Americans come first, but it doesn't necessarily have to be at the exclusion of other people wanting to enjoy the American dream. Dreamers in particular. Dreamers have been in this country most of their whole life. They don't know any other country. They should have an opportunity to go to college, become part of the military, get jobs. I think a lot of people forget that these people pay taxes too. Sometimes they're not actually going to be able to reap the benefits of those. So with American birth rates going down.
Excuse me, can I ask for respect the speakers and respect the congressman as he's speaking, please? Thank you. We're all here. We all want to participate. So thank you.
So with Americans' birth rate going down, our social service safety net programs, Social Security, Medicare, they're in a little bit of trouble. They're facing some insolvency here over the next 6 to 15 years. So we need people coming in and helping rebuild our workforce. Unemployment's at a record low. I don't see it as contradictory to making sure Americans have jobs, but creating other opportunities for new people to become American citizens and also enjoy the American dream.
Our next question is from ticket 254-824, and then on deck will be 254-818. 818? Right back up here. Thank you. Yes.
I'm Gene Fifield with Indivisible Clackamas. We have a whole flyer. Let's talk about Iran and the defense budget. The House had in there a provision to prevent the president from going to war with Iran without congressional authorization. The Senate stripped it out. And in a compromise, the House voted, and you were one of those that voted for it, to allow the bill to slip through. And it wound up being the biggest budget ever. And then it led to the action in Iran, where there was an assassination of a foreign leader. Here's the deal. You praise the people that executed an assassination, an illegal attempt. And that disturbs me a lot. And Congress, and you're not the only one, obviously. You let Trump get away with this by not holding up that bill. You shouldn't have done that. So anyway, maybe the government would have shut down, I don't know. But that, you had them then. Now, passing a bill later on, that isn't going to pass the Senate because there's no leverage. That doesn't mean anything. So it just was a big disappointment to me.
Sure. I share your concern about America's involvement, frankly, around the world. I don't think Americans should shoulder that burden unilaterally. That should be a shared burden to make sure that the bad actors around the world are held accountable. And I don't agree, respectfully, that the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, led to Trump's action. I was able to attend a classified briefing on the action against known terrorists. Has taken many American lives. Has been an architect for terrorism around the Middle East, including Israel. And they felt that this was an opportunity, much like, I think we forget, the President of the United States, Barack Obama, took out one of the huge terrorists, right? And so I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is the president or any executive thinking that they can do whatever they want without the approval of Congress. One of the first bills that passed the United States Congress that I voted for was restricting this president's ability to unilaterally act in Russia, North Korea, and Iran. We have since limited his ability in Saudi Arabia, and Yemen, and there was universal approbation about his withdrawing from the Kurds. You know, that's wrong. That's wrong. You support your friends, you support your allies. Doesn't always mean you have to be militarily involved. I have been a consistent leader in trying to redo the authorization for military force. That should be Congress's prerogative. The president, any executive needs some leeway to deal with an emergency that's out there, but any follow-up action, any longer-term engagement, that is constitutionally the Congress's job to decide if we go to war or have some protracted engagement. And what the rules of engagement would be for any new authorization of military force for terrorism. You know, the 2002 AOMF is woefully outdated. We actually passed a war powers resolution that you alluded to, I think, right afterwards, trying to take back our authority. And there's bipartisan support for that. We had Rand Paul and Ron Johnson in the Senate express disbelief that the president was considering doing more in Iran. Congress is trying to step up and use its authority for the first time since I've been in the United States Congress in this last several months. So I think there's a prospect for Congress, through you guys, to assert who's really in charge of whether we go to war or not.
Yeah, the executive branch. 254. Excuse me, folks, we're all here.
No, sir, I did. It says I obey the President of the United States of America, not you, and not that
Thank you.
state office.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're all here to participate in the democratic process.
And we are, sir.
Engagement.
We're not doing it like
But we also have
to 15 liberals to fight.
We also have to respectfully appreciate everybody else's time. It's not just one person here. We're all community. And if you want to take the mic, you're going to destroy the whole process and take away from other people's opportunities to speak. So my ask and my request is just please be respectful to each other and appreciate that we all have different opinions and different concerns. And I want to also just respectfully appreciate everybody's differences. So if you have a concern, you don't like what somebody said, then shake your hands. You know, raise your hands and bring a sign next time. The red sign saying you hate it, the green sign. But let's just keep it respectful so that everybody can hear the congressman speak, and then we can appreciate it. Thank you. 254-818.
That's me.
Okay, thank you. And then on deck is going to be 691-407. 691-407. Yes, there you go.
Hi, Trader. I'm Carol Ann. I've lived in CD5 almost my entire life. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on something. So last week was the 5th year anniversary of my mom dying from cancer. She also lived in this district almost her entire life, now that I think about it. She did not have health insurance. She had a full-time job that she had worked at for a very long time, making minimum wage. It was a shitty job, excuse my language. And she had lung cancer, and she was not able to go to the doctor for years and years and years, and when they finally caught it, she was terminal, and she died about 8 months later. So, like I said, you're my representative. You have been your entire time representing us in Congress, and in 2019, an article came out in The Intercept about how you sent your chief of staff to a conference that didn't have a Medicare for all slant to it, which is fine, but seemed to be actively working against getting your constituents health care for all. You know what? I don't want to be associated with these people, I'm not going to lie, but hearing that you are not fighting for us and are not representing the people in your district, I think is appalling. People like my mother are dying because people in Washington will not get them affordable or free health care. So I would just really like to hear your thoughts, like heart to heart, I don't need a lot of runaround, what you're working on. Why are you not supporting healthcare for all? Thank you. I appreciate your answer.
Well, as you might imagine, the article was wrong. The conference is about healthcare alternatives and options out there. I did not attend, as you pointed out. And we've been a leader in trying to make sure we have universal access to healthcare. There are some states, believe it or not, folks, there are some states where Congress folks get elected by not making sure people have access to healthcare. It's shocking to me, whether you're in South Carolina or Texas, non-Medicaid expansion states, folks have no opportunity. The whole reason the Affordable Care Act came into being was to make sure people had access. Low-income people in particular. Your mother working in a minimum wage job, she would have had health care access under the Affordable Care Act. Pre-existing conditions are no longer a death sentence. They are now covered under the Affordable Care Act. We realize people have real health issues out there. You know, I've worked really, really hard, an acknowledged leader in the United States Congress, on making sure everyone has access to health care. I'm not a big one on Medicare for all. As I pointed out, Medicare has a real problem right now with its own solvency. And we can't afford to wait. We can't afford to wait for a solution that may be great, and I agree with the premise, but we got to fix it now. There's no reason people should wait 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years or never get it, because Mitch McConnell's in the United States Senate. We need to do something now. And as I pointed out, there's bipartisan support to make sure that not just low-income people or really rich people, but middle-class Americans have access to health care. Without the Affordable Care Act, people would not have the opportunities that your poor mother had. I'm sorry for your loss there.
Thank you. Great question. 691-407 right there. I think it was.
Hi, Coordinator. There are 3 Congress people from Oregon who are supporting the Protect the Right to Organize Act, H.R. 2474, and bringing comprehensive labor law reform. Because right now, we have the right to organize in workplaces that was put in place by President Roosevelt, but over time, it's become a new issue. We have employers that force people to sit in on non-union meetings. People that are union organizers get fired, etc. And this act would help change that. And I was told you didn't support it, so I wonder if that's really true or not.
Well, I don't think so. I'd have to take a look at the act. I'll take the number and check it out. This is an opportunity at a lot of these forums where I get a chance to, find out about legislation that I'm not aware of or not as aware of as I should be, and we'll take a look at that. We're totally in support of making sure that collective bargaining is allowed. We're big on making sure that there are project labor agreements that represent good union wages. We're supporters of Davis-Bacon to make sure that all federal contracts are paid for on a regional wage scale that's commensurate with a living wage for Americans. So I'll check that out, but doesn't sound consistent with what I would like. So I'll check that out.
Okay, ticket number 691-391. 691-391. Right up there. Yes, Alexandria or AJ. Here we are. And then on deck, can we get 691-365? On deck, 691-365. Okay, there you go.
Hi, Congressman. My name is Zena. I'd like to thank you, first of all, for the work you've been doing recently to support gun safety and storage, the Charleston loophole, the work against domestic violence to protect people who have been stalked or are victims of domestic violence. My concern is, given the amount of work that you and others have been putting in, is what can we do to move it through the Senate?
Well, thank you for recognizing the fact we've done some good work. Actually, even in the last Congress, we're able to make sure that there's ability for the Communicable Disease Center to do research on gun violence. We've gotten the ability to ban bump stocks, making regular guns into automatic weapons. That's wrong. Strengthening up the background checks, the red flag laws that we have here in Oregon, we're trying to bring to Washington, D.C. This problem solvers group, there's some interest, bipartisan interest in going down that route. Having universal background checks, a no-brainer for our state, but tough to sell in D.C. We actually passed that bill out of the House. I guess I'd say make sure you talk to our senators. I think they're all on board and would be very supportive. If you have friends or relatives in other states that, maybe it's a little more controversial, some of these things, I'd ask you to reach out to them and tell them to talk to their senators, talk to their representatives. That would help create a little bit more momentum. That's the type of momentum I would like to have, and that way we can protect our kids and, frankly, everybody out there from the senseless gun violence that seems to be taking hold in our country at this point in time, and around the world, unfortunately.
Okay, Rick's next, and then I want to get on deck 254-813. 254-813. Anybody?
Hello.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Mark.
254-813. Is there anybody out there? Just want to get prepped. And then how about 691-422 on deck? All right, well, we'll go ahead with Rick first.
Sorry. Locally, matter of fact, the guy I came with, we've known each other since kindergarten. We've kind of got reunited. Don't want to bore you with the story, but we're native Oregonians. And to see our state in its condition right now is just appalling. And I don't know, the sanctuary state, which started with Sanctuary City, Portland, has become a magnet for white people who are drug addicted. And so, it's not what I wanted to talk about. Cap and trade here in Oregon, that is, I hope